Welcome to another deep dive, and today we're going someplace special, I think. I've heard you're quite the audiophile,
Yeah.
and today we're diving into the world of Verdicchio.
Verdicchio, yeah. One of those wines that I think kind of flies under the radar a lot of times,
Yeah,
but
definitely hidden gem.
a hidden gem
Yeah, yeah.
for those in the know.
Right, for those in the know. And we're going deep today. We have excerpts from a book dedicated to Verdicchio.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
talking about everything, the history, the cultivation, the winemaking process, its role in tourism.
Quite comprehensive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very comprehensive. So by the time we're done with this deep dive, you will know more about Verdicchio than you ever thought
I
possible.
think so.
So first things first, the name itself, Verdicchio.
Yeah, Verdicchio.
What's the story?
The name itself is pretty descriptive.
Hmm.
It translates to greenish, which,
Uh,
you might not think that sounds very appealing. But it very much reflects both the grape's color and that kind of signature vibrant acidity that you find in the wine.
So the name is a little hint of what's to come.
Exactly.
I like that. The book also delves into the history, which is a long one, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
Verdicchio has deep roots in the Marche region of Italy, potentially going all the way back to the Etruscans,
Wow.
predating the Roman era. So we're talking about centuries and centuries of winemaking tradition.
Wow, that's some serious history. Speaking of milestones, the book mentions the DOC designation in 1968.
Yes.
What's the significance of that?
That was a pivotal moment for Verdicchio.
Yeah.
The DOC, which stands for Denominazione di Origine Controllata, is a quality assurance system in Italy.
Okay.
And it means that wines labeled Verdicchio have to meet specific standards for origin, grape variety, and production methods.
So it's like a stamp of authenticity,
Exactly.
like you're getting the real deal.
Exactly, yeah, a guarantee.
Yeah.
It was recognition of the quality and uniqueness of Verdicchio. Yeah. And it really helped to elevate its status.
So like a seal of approval. Okay, so we have the name, we have the history, but
Yeah.
now I want to picture where all this takes place. Paint us a picture of the Marche region.
Sure. So imagine rolling hills that sort of cascade down to meet the Adriatic Sea.
Ooh.
That's the Marche. It's a region with really a diverse tapestry of terroir. So you have all these different soil types and elevations and microclimates that contribute to the uniqueness of these wines.
Sounds beautiful. But within Marche, there are two key subregions, right, for Verdicchio?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Castelli di Jesi and Metellica.
Okay.
And each of these has its own very distinct personality. Castelli di Jesi is the larger of the two. It's closer to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Picture those sun-drenched hills.
I like it already.
Yeah, dotted with medieval towns. And the soils there are primarily clay and limestone.
Oh, I can feel the sunshine and taste the history. What about Metallica? What sets it apart?
So Metellica is a bit more tucked away. It's further inland. It's nestled in a valley, and it has a more continental climate.
Interesting.
So, colder winters, hotter summers than the coastal influence that you get with Castelli di Jesi. The soils there tend to be alluvial and a bit more sandy.
So almost like comparing a coastal town to a mountain village.
Yeah.
Two completely different vibes. How do those differences translate into the wines themselves?
Well, so with Castelli di Jesi, the Verdicchio wines, they're typically known for their kind of vibrancy and freshness. You get a lot of citrus fruit, floral notes, and a really nice minerality that reflects those limestone-rich soils.
Sound like the perfect summer sipper. What about Metallica?
So the Metallica Verdicchio wines tend to be more structured, a little more complex,
Yeah.
with a really pronounced minerality
Okay.
and a richer texture. They often showcase notes of stone fruit, some herbs, and maybe a little hint of almond.
Wow, so even within one grape variety, there's so much diversity. This is where I get really excited. I'm sure our listeners do too, about the details. And the book actually goes into quite a bit of depth
Yes.
about the Verdicchio vine itself,
Absolutely, it does.
which I find fascinating. So tell us about that. What do the leaves look like?
Okay, so the leaves are medium to large in size.
Yeah.
They have 5 distinct lobes, almost as if a hand reaching out to capture the sunlight.
Okay, I'm trying to visualize that now. What about the grapes themselves? What do those look like?
So the bunches are either conical or cylindrical in shape, and they're packed with these medium-sized berries that are greenish yellow when they're young, but ripen to this beautiful golden hue.
Okay. I can almost picture myself walking through those vineyards now, feeling the warm Italian sun and those beautiful vines. But grapes alone don't make wine. So let's talk about the magic that happens next. The winemaking process.
Yes, this is where the artistry of the winemaker
Yeah.
really comes into play.
Yeah.
Verdicchio is, it's incredibly versatile in this regard. You might be surprised by the range of styles that can be produced
Oh,
from this one single grape.
more than just one type of Verdicchio. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Sure. So you have your classic dry whites, which are all about, showcasing those naturally vibrant
Yeah.
acidity and refreshing character. And those are typically fermented in stainless steel tanks to preserve those bright, zesty flavors.
Okay, I can already imagine that crisp, clean taste. What else is there?
Then you have Verdicchio wines that are aged in oak.
Oh,
Oak aging adds a whole new layer of complexity and introduces notes of vanilla and spice and toast.
okay, so we have fresh and zesty, and then we have oaky and complex. Anything else?
And for those who enjoy bubbles, there's even sparkling Verdicchio.
Oh, hold on. Sparkling Verdicchio. Okay, now you have my attention.
It can be produced using either the traditional method, like champagne,
Oh, wow.
or the Charmat method, which is a little bit
Yeah.
faster. And we can't forget Pasito, which is a sweet dessert wine made from dried Verdicchio grapes.
Mm.
And the drying process really concentrates those sugars and flavors, resulting in this um, luscious honeyed nectar with notes of dried fruit and spice.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. Verdicchio is not a one-trick pony. It's incredibly versatile. But I have to admit, I'm still a bit hazy on what all this means in terms of taste. What are those signature aromas and flavors that I should expect to find?
Let's imagine we're taking a journey through a virtual tasting here. You bring the glass and I'll bring the expertise. So what do you see first?
Okay, so I'm swirling my glass, admiring the color. It's a pale straw yellow, almost shimmering in the light.
Perfect, yeah. That pale straw yellow color is very typical of a young Verdicchio.
Okay.
And then as it ages, it can develop, deeper golden hues.
Mm.
I'll bring that glass a little bit closer and take a deep inhale. What do you smell?
I'm getting a burst of citrus, lemon zest, a hint of grapefruit. It's very refreshing. And there's something else there. A subtle floral note, almost like honeysuckle.
Excellent. You're picking up on those classic Verdicchio aromas. And don't forget the minerality, that subtle saline note, like a whisper of the Adriatic Sea.
Oh, right. You mentioned that earlier. It's like the wine is carrying a memory of its origins.
Exactly, yeah. It's the terroir expressing itself
I like it.
in the glass.
Okay.
Now, for the most important part, the taste.
Hmm.
Take a sip and let it linger on your palate.
Okay. Wow. It's so crisp and refreshing with that vibrant acidity you talked about. There's that citrus again, but also a hint of something riper, like white peach or apricot.
Hmm.
And it finishes with this clean, almost salty minerality.
You're describing it perfectly. That's the beauty of Verdicchio, that balance of freshness, fruit, and minerality.
Yeah.
And that vibrant acidity is key
Okay.
because it's what makes Verdicchio such a food-friendly wine.
Speaking of food, I know seafood is that classic pairing, but what else would you recommend?
So for Castelli di Jesi Verdicchio, with its lighter style and that vibrant acidity, I would think of dishes that complement those characteristics.
Hmm.
Fresh oysters, grilled fish, seafood risotto, maybe a pasta with a light herb-based sauce.
Okay, those sound like perfect matches. What about Metallica? With its bolder structure, can it handle, richer dishes?
Absolutely. Yeah, Metallica Verdicchio can stand up to roasted fish, white meats with creamy sauces, even some lighter game dishes.
Wow, so much versatility. This
Yeah.
is really making me want to seek out a bottle and experience all these flavors myself. But before we go on a shopping spree, there's one thing that struck me as odd while reading this book. Verdicchio seems to be, hugely popular in Italy,
Yeah,
but not as well known internationally. Why do you think that is?
it's a bit of a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Verdicchio has everything going for it.
Yeah.
Quality, character, a fascinating history, and a range of styles to suit different tastes. Maybe it's just, I don't know, been overshadowed by some of the more famous Italian wines.
But maybe that's a good thing.
I think so.
Maybe it's a chance to discover something.
Exactly.
And a little bit underappreciated.
Yeah. And I think, with more and more people these days seeking out wines that have that sense of place and authenticity,
Absolutely.
Verdicchio really ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. But before we go any further, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something that's probably on our listeners' mind right now. Where do I even begin with finding a good bottle?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the good news is you don't need to be a wine expert to find a Verdicchio that you'll enjoy.
That's a relief to hear. So where do we start?
I would say the best place to start is a good wine shop, preferably one that specializes in Italian wines
Okay.
or has a knowledgeable staff. Don't be shy about asking for recommendations. Tell them you're interested in Verdicchio.
Yeah.
and mention what you've learned about the different styles and subregions.
I like that approach. It's about having a conversation, not just grabbing a random bottle off the shelf.
Exactly. And if you want to get really specific, you can mention some of the producers that we've talked about. Garofoli, Sardarelli, Umani
It's
Ranchi.
like a secret password
Yeah,
to unlock the best Verdicchio experience.
exactly. And keep in mind that even within a specific subregion or producer, you'll find variations in style and taste. So be adventurous. Try a few different bottles.
Ooh, I love a good taste test.
Yeah.
What should we be looking for on the labels?
Well, pay attention to the vintage, which is the year the grapes were harvested. A recent vintage is generally going to be more fresh and vibrant, whereas an older vintage might have more complex, evolved flavors.
Okay. Vintage check. What else?
Look for any special designations like Classico or Reserva.
Okay.
These terms indicate that the wine meets certain quality standards or has been aged for a longer period, which can give you a richer, more nuanced flavor profile.
It's like decoding a secret language.
Mm.
But all this talk about tasting is making me want to actually, taste it,
Right.
experience it. So let's walk through how to appreciate a glass of Verdicchio.
All right, I like it. So first, observe the wine in the glass. Hold it up to the light and admire its color. Is it pale straw yellow? Is it a deeper golden hue? Something in between?
Okay, I have my glass. It's a beautiful pale lemon color, almost like liquid sunshine.
Beautiful. That suggests a youthful Verdicchio full of vibrancy and freshness. Now give it a gentle swirl. This helps to release the aromas.
Swirling. Check. Oh, wow, those aromas are really coming alive now.
What are you getting?
That's citrus again, but it's more pronounced now. I'm getting lemon zest, a touch of grapefruit, and, oh, this is interesting, a hint of green apple, too.
Wonderful. You're starting to develop your wine vocabulary?
I am.
And remember, those aromas can evoke all sorts of sensory memories. Does it remind you of anything?
It's making me think of springtime, walking through an orchard in bloom. It's fresh, clean, and invigorating.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
about finding those personal connections. Now, for the grand finale, the taste. Take a sip, let it coat your palate.
All
Pay
right.
attention to the texture, the acidity, the balance of flavors.
It's like a burst of sunshine in my mouth. There's that vibrant acidity, but it's not sharp or overpowering. It's balanced by the fruitiness, the citrus, the green apple, a touch of something floral like honeysuckle.
And that lovely minerality that lingers on the finish, like a whisper of the sea.
You're painting a beautiful picture with your words. You're really starting to appreciate the nuances.
I have to admit, I'm impressed. Verdicchio is far more complex and engaging than I ever imagined. And speaking of engaging, all this talk about the tasting and the aromas has sparked another thought. We've been focusing on how Verdicchio tastes. But what about its role in the culture of Marche? What does it represent to the people who live there?
That's a great question. In Marche, Verdicchio is more than just a wine. It's woven into the fabric of everyday life. It's a symbol of regional pride, a connection to the land and its history. For generations, families have gathered around tables, sharing stories, laughter over glasses of Verdicchio.
So it's more than a drink. It's a tradition, a symbol of community.
Exactly. And, for those who visit Marche, experiencing Verdicchio in its native environment adds a whole new dimension. You're not just tasting the wine, you're tasting the culture, the history, the passion of the people who make it. It's like a window into the soul of a place.
It is. And the best part is, you don't have to travel to Italy to get a taste of that. With a little knowledge, a sense of adventure, you can discover the magic of Verdicchio right at home.
This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to Verdicchio. I'm starting to see why it's considered such a hidden gem, but I'm also realizing that there's always more to learn, more to explore.
Absolutely. That's what makes the world of wine so fascinating. It's a never-ending journey of discovery. Speaking of journeys, remember those wine routes we mentioned?
Oh, right, the Strada del Vino.
Yes. Imagine yourself driving through those landscapes, stopping at charming wineries, meeting the winemakers, tasting Verdicchio right where it's made. It's an experience that will really immerse you.
Okay, that's officially on my travel bucket list now. But before we book our flights, let's take a step back and consider everything we've learned. We've talked about the history, the terroir, the winemaking process, the different styles of Verdicchio, the food pairings, even the cultural significance of this incredible wine.
And the most important thing we've learned is that Verdicchio is more than just a drink. It's a story. It's an experience, a journey that connects us to a place and its people.
And it's a journey that's just beginning. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge. So what happens next is up to you. Maybe you'll become a Verdicchio evangelist, spreading the word
Yeah.
about this incredible wine. Or maybe you keep it your own little secret, a hidden gem that you savor
Yeah.
and share with those closest to you.
Well, whatever path you choose, just remember that wine is meant to be enjoyed.
Right.
It's about pleasure, connection, and sharing something special. And Verdicchio, with its unique character and captivating story, it's a perfect example of that.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll do another deep dive,
Uh-huh.
this time into your Verdicchio discoveries. We can compare tasting notes, share stories,
I like that.
and continue this journey of exploration together.
Sounds good to me.
Uh-huh.
Until then, happy sipping, and may your glass always be filled with adventure.
Cheers to that.